good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever your time zone is. We're delighted to have you join us today. We're very excited about our Q2 LARC member meeting, and hopefully there are some folks on the call considering joining the LARC, and we hope you enjoyed today's program. I would like to remind everyone that we are bound by the laws of antitrust, regardless of what country you are, in the spirit of the IALD and the design and the nature of what we do about advancing lighting design as a community. We are competitors, and we should not be speaking to anything related to anything that might be collusion. It's probably the best word. So anyway, thank you and welcome.
Hello, I am Alexis Arnoldi, and that was Nancy Stathis, and we are your LARC Steering Committee co-chairs. We're very excited about our agenda today, especially the presentation by Andrea Hartranft, which will be moderated by Steven Rosen. I'll now pass things along to Ben and Simon.
Hi everyone, I'm Simon Thorpe and I'm a lighting designer in the UK from LAPD, and I'm on the steering committee. And as well as Alexis and Nancy co-chairing the steering committee, we have a balance of lighting designers and manufacturers. The other lighting designers are Steven Rosen from Available Light in the States, and we have Paul Elhert from Spectrum in Switzerland, and a delegate member we have Chiara Carucci from Sweden. The manufacturers on the committee are Carla Bukowski from GE Current, a Daintree company in the States. We have Matthew Cobham from ERCO in Germany, and we have Sharon Magnaji from Former Lighting in Hong Kong. And last but not least, Ben Cantu from LumenWorks in the States, who I will now pass you over to.
Greetings, everyone. Ben Cantu here with LumenWorks. An honor and a privilege to be with you guys today. We would like to send a very enthusiastic welcome to our newest manufacturing members: Cosine Lighting, Contech Lighting, ERP Power, Interlux, LEDs C4, Lucy, Luxbox, and StarTech Lighting. The steering committee assisted in recruiting many of the new members, and we are always looking to add more. So please reach out to your colleagues and your competitors to encourage them to join. We'd also like to, if we can advance the slide. We'd also like to send out a huge thank you to all of our current manufacturing members. We all know that last year was a very challenging year for everyone, and these manufacturers recognize the importance of maintaining their membership and supporting our community. So for that, we are very, very thankful for all of these manufacturers. Next slide. For those of you that might be interested in being more active on the LARC steering committee, the LARC Nominations and Elections Committee is accepting nominations for individuals to be considered for service on the 2022 LARC steering committee. Watch for emails on that, or contact any of us if you're interested. The open elected position, there is only one position that's going to be open, and that is for a steering committee member. That is a 2-year term, so it will be for 2022 through 2024. Next slide, please. I will then pass this on to Sharon, who is going to touch on the IALD and LARC collaboration. Sharon?
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Ben and Simon. So as a representative of an LIRC member manufacturer, I can attest to the benefits of belonging to a professional body that not only welcomes new members, but adds great value to helping us develop industry practices which foster innovation and advancement. I think especially this year, the collaboration between the IALD's members and the IALD LIRC members has become increasingly important, and we're fortunate to have this platform which exists and encourages designers and manufacturers to actively engage in constructive dialogue that motivates us to challenge one another in our ongoing pursuit for improvement and education. the IALD has created a place of belonging in our industry with opportunities to cultivate relationships and express our shared commitment to the lighting design profession. And above all, it offers its members a voice. To that end, around 2019, when IALD LIRC members requested a new moderate and exclusive option for exhibiting at Light Fair, they were heard, and their request was manifested into the Collective, a members only partner pavilion at Light Fair. So for anyone interested, we do encourage all our LIRC members to take advantage of this unique initiative. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Ashley Robbins, the IALD's new CEO. Ashley has dedicated over 8 years with the IALD and previously served as the IALD's COO, and prior to that, the Director of Membership. So this is her message for you.
Hello all, I am Ashley Robbins, IALD's interim CEO. For the last year, I have seen the LIRC develop and create new content to provide to our members. We are forever grateful for your support. We are really excited to be in person at Light Fair in New York in October. There's still space at the Light Collective, only available to LIRC members. If you'd like to sign up or learn more about it, please ask Kelly or May. Enjoy your meeting, and we'll see you in New York.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. I also have the honor to introduce today's esteemed moderator, a fellow of the IALD and a past president of the IALD Education Trust, principal and creative director of the award-winning lighting design firm Available Light, and of course, a fellow member of the LIRC Steering Committee, lighting designer, Steven Rosen.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I will try to be esteemed for you today. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. What pisses me off? That is a pretty intriguing and provocative topic, isn't it? And I think it is apropos and perfect for our organization, the LIRC, where the dialogue between manufacturers and designers is open and clear and collaborative, and our pursuit of the best lighting comes from these kinds of meetings and these kinds of discussions. So I am delighted to be here. I am delighted to be introducing Andrea, who will speak to you in a few minutes. I hope many of you were able to catch the IALD Awards ceremony that happened last week, along with the Blue Ribbon Bash, where we were raising money for the Trust. And if you are interested in making a donation to the Trust, let us know. And I would like to introduce one of the Trust's most, one of our strongest donors. Andrea Hartranft has been very supportive of the Trust, the LIRC, and the IALD. She is a fellow of the IALD and is principal of Hartranft Lighting Design, which offers expertise gained from more than 1,500 commercial, institutional, and industrial projects. Her work has received lighting design awards from the IALD, the IES, the AIA, and many others. She's currently on the board of the IALD and is a past president of the Education Trust. Andrea has presented at a number of conferences, and today I think is the pinnacle of that presentation to all of you. She has spoken at Enlighten Americas, Europe, and Asia. She has many stamps in her passport, including being a workshop lead in Allingsås and in Lucy in the Riviera. Andrea has taught lighting fundamentals and advanced lighting design courses in the Corcoran College of Art and Design from 2006 until 2013. But in fact, her bio does not begin to describe the amazing impact she's had on our community. She's been a leader for decades, and we all owe her a debt of gratitude, and we are delighted to have her here. One last housekeeping message. I am assuming you will all have questions and comments. We want to hear them. We want to respond to them. And we ask that you use the Q&A panel to list your questions. And I'll be tracking that. And when Andrea is finished with her talk, I look forward to positing many of your questions to her. So Andrea, you're on. Thank you very much for being here.
Wow, I'm all verklempt, right? Thank you, Steven. Thank you for everything you do as well. That's no small list. Hi, everybody. Really honored to be here and to have this opportunity to start this dialogue. And I really think this is the beginning of a very positive opportunity for dialogue between designers and manufacturers. Apologies for, not apologies, I can't apologize for nature. There's nature behind me. It might make some noises. Otherwise, you'll just hear me. So let me share my screen. And I hope everybody can see my screen, but I can't see your screens anymore.
We're good. So, we see your screen.
Fantastic. So when Nancy came to me and said, would you like to be a speaker? And I said, sure. And I said, what should I speak on? And she said, whatever you like. And I said, well, I'd like to talk about food. Is that going to work? And she said, no. I said, okay, then how about what pisses me off? Well, as I thought about it, you all support lighting designers in so many ways, as do your manufacturers reps in so many ways, that it can't just be what pisses me off. So this has morphed into how manufacturers make lighting designers' jobs harder and easier, because we do appreciate the partnership that we have. So what I started by doing, because I only have a limited amount of experience in this big industry that isn't that big, so I polled everybody I could think of all over the world to get feedback. And amazingly, and not surprisingly, I got a lot of feedback. I got a lot of comments. I will say the things that piss us off comments did outweigh the things that we appreciate comments, but nevertheless, I got both. And so what today is meant to be, like I said, is a beginning to that conversation. I'm going to be presenting what people have to say. It is representative of everybody that I polled. It's meant to be constructive and collaborative. If my tone does get a little bit elevated, it's just because I care and because these things are so important to us. And lighting designers, it's what we do. It's what we love. So with that, I felt like the best way to start this conversation was to talk about how the design process we work within, and not every project is the same. This is a generalization, but within this slide, and I know it's not meant for you to read every single word, it's just meant for it to be and for me to work from, but are things that we require from one phase to the next throughout the design process. And this discussion is going to sort of track with this project sequence. So, when we start a project, hopefully we're invited at the get-go. That doesn't always happen. We get invited at all phases of the project, and sometimes even after the fact when things haven't gone so well and they finally figured out that they need a lighting designer. But if we're starting from the beginning, we're not immediately having to have a lot of detail. We're looking for images. We're looking for application images. So everything that you do that helps us to find those quickly, that can articulate our just initial thoughts for projects, is absolutely appreciated. From there, we start to slowly ramp up from, a schematic level of information about products to more detailed information about products. And by the time we get to construction documents, we're really fine-tuning installation, controls, everything that we may be working within. And then, truthfully, all hell breaks loose when value engineering happens. And inevitably, these days, it's not an if, but a when. It might happen at schematic, it might happen at DD, it might happen even, right at bid. So, we're dealing with that, and we're hoping that we're well represented and well, carefully curated by the manufacturer's reps. And then as we move into the building process, we're having to answer questions, and we're very appreciative of quick responses. And so this is sort of a typical snapshot of what we deal with. So just some notes about this presentation. Just some things that are cues for you all. Q1 is, if you see it in black, it's sort of a topic. If you see it in LIRC magenta, let's call it, it's likely a quote that somebody has given me. If you see this icon, I don't think I need to explain it, but hopefully you'll see some of these icons as well. So you'll get a pretty good sense of where we fall on these things. So starting from concepts, your website, that's the first, that's kind of these days, like sometimes our first introduction to you. And I would say if I am, in a rush, or somebody on my team is in a rush and we have to log in and provide a whole bunch of information to you for your website, chances are, no matter how fantastic your products are, we're on to the next website, which is unfortunate for all of us. We don't have a ton of time usually to learn your marketing jargon. I get it, I appreciate it. Everybody wants to brand themselves, but as this person pointed out, if you call one thing a marlin and another thing a swordfish and another thing a blowfish, and you don't give us any photographs, we don't know what you're talking about. So clearness is so appreciated, because just like you, we are just running with like chickens with our heads cut off most of the time. With regard to samples, when you send samples like right away, and by right away, I'd say probably, sometimes it's overnight, and I know that probably makes you crazy, and sometimes we have no choice, but at least within a few days or a week, it makes our lives so wonderful. When you send them with no cord and plug, or a controller that we don't know how to work, or no instructions, or something, it doesn't make us so very happy. We know that we have to open up the case and figure everything out prior to going to our clients. That's on us. But when we have to call our clients and say, sorry, we can't show you this today because it doesn't work, they don't care necessarily about the form factor if it can't light. So appreciate it when everything is working. And so begins the conversation on cut sheets, and it will go through concepts to design development. People had, I would say, more than any other comments were comments about cut sheets, because they are sort of the lifeblood of how we communicate with our clients and ourselves, each other, our teams. Line drawings, while they make sense for engineering, don't necessarily make sense for visual types. So if you're going to have line drawings on your cut sheets, and there's no reason not to, photos are, I think, pretty much de rigueur. I mean, it makes our job easier. And this is going to be all over the map. These are, as these things came in, I kept adding them to the conversation. So this is just in general on cut sheets. Lumen output, while we appreciate knowing what initial lumens are, obviously to both of us, that doesn't really help us until we know what delivered lumens are. So if you would be so kind as to give us delivered lumens as well, it will speed our process. Giving us all dimensions of everything to do with the fixture. And I don't mean like every nut and bolt, but things that matter. And I'm sure there are many who would be happy to continue that conversation, are really appreciated. I can't tell you how many people came and said, standardize cut sheets, and even more detailed, standardize the technical information. There has been the lighting facts, you see them on like lamp information. You go to Home Depot, you buy a lamp, and it's right on there. Oh my goodness, for those of us who are specifying multiples and multiples of light fixtures, having to look for lumen output, candle power, lamp life, color temperature, it's, everybody puts it in a different place. Some people put ordering information at the very end of the cut sheet. Well, that's great. And I get it. I get the logic of, okay, we're going to explain all the things you need, and then it's going to be really easy for you to to specify, but the reality is a lot of times I just want to grab that specification. I know what I need. So if I have to scroll through 15 pages before I can get to the information, and then maybe I do need to find some information, it's really, really not so wonderful. So you know, as an industry, it would be fantastic if some standardization of the very, very most pertinent information. This lighting designer likened it to nutritional labeling. You know, we all know we can go to the nutritional label and we're going to find calories and fat and carbs and all those things, and vitamins if there are any, hopefully. And so that is very appreciated as well, and would be very appreciated. And I would bet my bottom dollar that there are many lighting designers who would be more than happy to beta stuff for you to help you make those decisions about what we really, really want to find quickly. Ridiculously long cut sheets. That is a pet peeve of, I'd say, probably everybody. And you'll see this again when we get to submittals, because that's where it really gets to be exhaustive. But, you know, it would be great perhaps if there was the simple cut sheet that we can send to our clients that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, because otherwise we're probably going to go into Adobe or Bluebeam or something and get rid of a lot so that, you know, our clients aren't confused. But it would be great if there were different versions of cut sheets. And I know I'm asking for a lot, but maybe some of these things will take, and anything that streamlines the process helps us to specify your product, and that translates to you getting your product specified, and I'm sure that's really the interest. So product images that we can't click on and download don't help us. Photometrics. We spend a lot of time modifying our photometrics for the things that we need because we can't find photometric specific IES files. And that includes even like lenses. And I know that's a pain in the neck, I get it, but it's really helpful to us because when we're running calculations, obviously we're not just running one or two fixtures in there. If it's a large project, we're running a lot of fixtures in there. And any time spent looking for IAS files, and this is going to be a recurring theme as we have this conversation, is time and money for us. Clarity of regarding components. You know, there's some products that are really easy to specify. You know, boom and done. There's other products that have lots of parts and pieces to specify, and the simpler you can make it for us to find components, to know, you know, if something requires an A, a B, and a C, and C happens to live on a different cut sheet, and maybe there's like one little sentence that tells us that we need to go find that cut sheet for C, that's time. And again, it's all, for us, it's all about time. If you have standard products, and for whatever reason you change your model numbers, that's a pet peeve. And my favorite story, you know, I started in this industry a long, long time ago, but when I came to work for Candy Kling back in 1995, every downlight we specified, and I'm not, you know, singing anybody's praises here, but was the Light LIRC 7054 CL. Now this is, you know, 26 years later, I still remember that number because over and over and over again, it was 150 watt clear reflector downlight. And then Light LIRC, for whatever reason, changed the catalog numbers. And it became like this long catalog number that made no sense. And all of a sudden that became licensed for us to specify other downlights because it was different. And you know, I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So anyways, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, one or two lighting designers just said basically, you know, and it comes down to know your audience, you know, put yourself in our shoes. How can we quickly and properly and concisely specify a piece of equipment? You know, how do we articulate it quickly and make sure we're not screwing up? So that gives us confidence, and the more confidence we have, the more likely we are to spec your product. Look at all those smiley faces. That's a good thing. You're probably tired of hearing me not smiling faced. So multi-protocol, I can't even say it. Ultimately, flexibility. That's what it translates to. Things that make it easy to change midstream, that give us a lot of flexibility. That's a big smiley face. At this point, we feel like it shouldn't even be a thing. Maybe it is, and you can explain to us why it is. But CRI, we really would appreciate it if, you know, everything could be high CRI and not cost more. And maybe it doesn't, and that's information we would like. Changeable optics, anything that we have to aim, anything that's flexible needs to be really flexible. So when we see products that have changeable optics in the field, especially if we're doing museums or anything where we're working with tracker accents, that's so appreciated. Anything that we don't have to go back to you and say, oops, somebody changed something, we need to change something, can you ship us blah, 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 blah. If it's easy and easily changed, it's greatly appreciated. Again, delivered versus initial. We really need to know once it's coming out of the fixture what we're getting, because a lot of times, you know, a lot of fixtures just by inherently are not terribly efficient. So if you tell us that it's got 2,000 lumens, but it really only has 1,200 lumens, and you don't put that on your cut sheet, and someone like me who is not running calcs on AGI because I'm old and decrepit and a dinosaur, it's a problem. I mean, I need to at least have a fighting chance, and I'm representative, I think, of a number of people who really appreciate knowing exactly what's coming out of the fixture, and especially when it comes to small aperture product, because it just translates to glare. And so I want to mitigate that, and I want to be able to understand very quickly. This is my personal pet peeve. And again, if my tone is getting elevated, apologies. Appreciate you all. Accent products, flexibly aimed products that are meant to light specific things rather than generality, that don't give me candle power information, don't help me at all, because lumens don't tell me with a quick calculation how much light I'm going to get on a piece of art, on a sculpture, on a spot on the wall, on anything. So if you could just give us candle power and curves visually on the cut sheet, we don't all have access to Toolbox. That would be extremely appreciated. Those who are kind enough to create acoustic products, that is really fantastic. And I did have one acoustics class with Howard Kingsbury at Penn State. I remember nothing of it. It was toward the end of my degree program, and I was focused on thesis. So I really need specifics on sound absorption, because I don't know, other than to say to my architects or my clients, hey, this thing's acoustic, and they go, great. Then we still have to have somebody on board that can tell us just how much implication. So the more information on the cut sheet that I can provide to the architects, that is really appreciated as well. Catenary. Everybody loves catenary. It's so cool, and there's more and more fixtures out there. And if we just had to only specify the fixtures, life would be fantastic, because then they would magically hang in the air, and you wouldn't have to figure out just how to torque the cables and what size cables and how it goes into buildings or onto poles and bending moments and all the things that maybe engineers took at 8 o'clock in the morning and also don't remember. There are some manufacturers among you that do take ownership for the structural requirements. We love them, we spec them, because otherwise the structural engineer on the project needs to take some ownership and run some calculations. And we understand that. And if that's the way it has to be, that's the way it has to be. But just do know that it's an added layer. And then track accessories with no diameter dimensions is a nightmare for us, because for obvious, I don't even have to say it. I'm just going to keep going. We just, that's information we need. And all of this is to say we're navigating a maze of information. And the straightest line that you all can help us find is the line that we're going to appreciate the most, and those are the manufacturers we're going to specify. So things like pendants that have DMX for the generality of the pendant and then 0 to 10 for the downlight, we don't understand, you know, and maybe again, maybe it's just something that we need to understand, but it's a digital age. All of it could be digital. We don't, you know, make it easy. Easy is better. If we're already paying for that level of control, we've already got the ability. Lots of people wanted, and I agree, tech department numbers on cut sheets. We love our reps, but they have lives and they have lots of clients. And while they want us to feel like we are their #1 client, if we're rational people, we know that's can't be the case all the time. And sometimes we really do need that answer right away. So having a shortcut is really helpful to us. Pricing transparency. We could probably talk about this forever, and everybody has a different feel about it. What I would say is this, and you'll hear me talk about this a couple more times, but when we get on a project, I would say that lack of transparency and the difficulty of navigating the lighting industry beyond the design portion is the thing that makes clients the most likely to not hire a lighting designer. That's how they end up just going their own path, because they assume that lighting designer means more money, that it adds layers of complexity, and a lot of it has to do with just the layers upon layers upon layers of pricing markup and pricing differential, and you know, nobody really being sure from one project to the next. I mean, if we get a price on one project and then we get the same fixture on another project, oftentimes the number isn't the same, even in the same geographical region. So we're just asking for help with this, because the more clients that don't feel like they're navigating a minefield when it comes to pricing their projects and being sure about where the pricing is going to fall, the more that are likely to hire us, and the more that hire us are likely to get your fixture specified, especially if they're not, you know, vanilla, you know, like, you know, general fixtures like downlights and stuff. So, you know, not everybody understands this. When architects work on projects, a lot of times architects and interior designers and other design flavors that have big parts of projects, they're working on one project for maybe a couple, 3 years, you know, from start to finish. And we are, you know, working on a project from start to finish also for that time period, typically, along with sometimes 20, 30, 40 other projects that are in all different levels or phases of design and construction. And every day, you know, we get up. I used to joke I had a swivel chair, and whichever way I swiveled it would determine what I was going to work on that day, because, you know, we all have so much on our boards. And even though we plan on working on one thing, an RFI comes in from the field on a project that's in construction, and our day is lost. So sometimes even a 24-hour turnaround of information is too long. And I know that's probably at the top of most manufacturers' lists of things that lighting designers do that make them want to just scream and pull their hair out is we'll call, you know, everybody on the planet to get some information that we need right away. And I get that, but sometimes we need it right away. We try to be respectful and not ask for it unless it's an urgent situation that quickly. But it is really appreciated when we get it. So photometrics are sometimes the bane of our existence, because it's just like I said before, it's time spent. It's time spent looking, and I'm going to just check and see how I'm doing for time. I haven't seen a text from Steven Rosen yet, so I'm probably doing okay. The more time we have to spend looking for IAS files, I'll say it again, the more frustrated we get. A zip file that we download that has 300 IAS files in it that include downlights and wall wash and accent and troffers and everything else in one zip file because it was convenient. we don't always know your catalog numbers, and now we're wading through this. And chances are, at least in my firm, I've asked either one of our interns or one of our younger designers to go and run these calcs, and they're probably even less familiar with your IES file configurations. So just being aware that it's time, it's money. It would be great, as I said before, to have a visual for those of us who aren't going to jump into the IES files, just something that we can look at quickly on the cut sheet that gives us a curve and gives us some basic information. Candle power is always appreciated because I can convert that to foot candles very quickly. When you label your files by the product's catalog number, it makes it so much easier for us to find. When you have what is random to us but not random to you labeling, it's something that takes a lot more time for us. Modifications. We understand, modifications are costly. One-offs, probably, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of you guys have no interest in. The issue is when we hear no from somebody that we think has the capability to say yes, it's frustrating when we hear can't, won't, haven't. We'd rather hear, here's what it will take. It's going to be $4.9 million. Okay, well, if it's going to be that much, yes, obviously you're not the right people. But we'd like to hear yes more than we hear no, if it's at all possible. If I come to you and ask you to make a widget that you don't even have tooling and can't even remotely, like, why would I ever come to you? But I had a recent project with a manufacturer that on paper, you would never, ever, ever have thought that they could make that product for me. And they ended up with a very significant sale because they said, you know what? We have tooling that could get us close to this. Let's see if we could do it. And at the end of the day, they made unbelievable custom pendants for us that are just brilliant. And I was really grateful that they didn't just say, oh my God, no, can't, I just can't. I mean, and it worked out well for both of us because they actually have introduced parts and pieces of this thing as a new line. So anyways, that's just what you need to know about that. So I did hear from colleagues across the pond. I don't feel like I need to say where across the pond specifically, but the reality is that it is a different market and it's a different situation. And I understand that. I don't work in that market. So that's why I really am the messenger in this case. But what I would say is I think that independent lighting designers not in North America feel like oftentimes feel like they're fighting an uphill battle. Like they don't get the same kind of support from manufacturers and reps because there is a different situation. And maybe sometimes you all do become their competitors rather than their partners. And that makes it hard, I think, for them to make a living. So some of the frustrations are just general ones like we all have with catalogs and information and websites that don't give them the information what they need. But some of their frustrations have to do with, getting pricing and getting representation and getting proper attention and not having to compete. So I think, that's a dialogue that should be continued. I think it should be continued where it's happening. And there's more coming on across the pond. Within the across the pond, one of the manufacturer or one of the lighting designers used a word that I had never seen before. And I will say, I do the New York Times crossword every single day. I've never seen or come across this word before. I like it, aleatory. So here's your word for the day, aleatory. It means a throw of the dice, a random chance. And used in their context was with regard to getting pricing and figuring out what percentage discount on the list pricing that they're given to put. That's not that different for us in the States, because, you know, the reality is we play guess your best every time we get pricing of, you know, if we're given distributor net, okay, how much is everybody going to put on downstream? If we're given contractor net, how much are those folks going to put on downstream? We have basic ideas, but every geographical region is different. And, you know, and at the end of the day, the closer we can get to pricing for our clients, the better we look and the better you look. And the better the reps look. You know, it's all about trust. Hey, modifications are back. You know, during design development, it's one thing, you know, and that's definitely, if you're going to say no, that's the time to say no. I had a project, it was a big park in Charlotte, and we were doing some crazy sauce stuff, like gouging troughs for lighting in big granite stone, and things that had to make 90-degree turns. And I was working with a manufacturer who said, we can, until we got to have to buy the fixtures. And then they came back and said, we can't. And I lost so much. I lost that client. I lost credibility with that client and anyone else that was involved in that project. And we did find another manufacturer who came in at twice the cost, because that was the reality of it, and we lost the design. And so it was a real frustration. And you know, hopefully maybe that was a one-off and it's never happened to anybody else. But CDs and certainly bid is not the time to find out that you can't. So, you know, please, we would just ask, you know, pay attention when we send you drawings and details. You know, if you can't, well, we want you to say yes to us all the time, but if you can't, the sooner we hear we can't, the easier it is for us. Because that ends up, that's when we bleed fee too, you know, and at the end of a project, man, oh man, that's when the fee is starting to get sparse. You know, we're starting to dig into our CA part of the fee, and you never know. There's so many things that we just bleed money profusely from when design is done. Speaking of shop drawings, standard product sign off on shop drawings. If you can avoid us having to do that, we would appreciate it, because it adds another week or whatever. And again, sometimes that translates to time and money for us, but it also translates to time for the project, and sometimes the time is not there. You know, I would say that's probably the least favorite time, at least for me, on any of these projects, because submittals will start coming in and substitutions come in, and they're often incomplete. For those manufacturers who have fixture cut sheets that have 15+ pages, because every possible iteration of everything is in them. If I've got 100 fixtures on a project, I'm now dealing with 1,500 to 2,000 pages that I've got to scroll through, or somebody, probably not me, has to scroll through to evaluate whether the likely not as specified product is going to meet our requirements and be acceptable. So things that are like that really do suck time from us. Incomplete fixture substitution submittals, and I understand your reps are usually getting our packages like with 24 hours turnaround, and that is a really bad part. Ooh, here's Steven Rosen is now saying I have 10 minutes left. Well, I'm going to do my very best. I think I'm at 16 of 23. All right. So anything you can do to streamline this process, you know, from soup to nuts, making sure we get complete submittals, but that aren't a bajillion pages long, that's really appreciated. But with the information that we need, you know, it's like me asking for everything. I'm asking for the moon. Oh, Steven is okay. I'm assuming, I don't know. I've gotten it in all kinds of orders, so I have no idea what's going on with my time, but somebody will tell me when I'm done. Across the pond, it was all about trust and ethics and having to compete with reps and manufacturers. You know, we deal with that in the United States as well. I think it's elevated in when you get overseas that you know, either manufacturers offer design for free, representatives offer design for free. How it translates to me is, if you're offering lighting design for free because you know you're going to make it on the back end of the fixture sales, I can't compete. I just can't. I can't compete with free fee, because nobody sees that balance between how you're going to make it up on marking up product. So I'm just perceived as asking for something that they can get for free. I can't compete with that. And I think that is a big issue, and I think it's a bigger issue overseas. But I again think it's a conversation that should be had in the localities, and I think that's where partnership could be very significant. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, there is lots of opportunity for improvement to that partnership that benefits everybody. A strong lighting design community in every community is good for everybody. You know, we are part of the food chain. Think of us all as an ecosystem. Nobody needs the entire pie. If everybody gets some of the pie, everybody gets to taste the pie, and nobody gets fat or cholesterol. So, bad food analogy, but I'm sure you get my point. Let's see what else we have a more code of ethics. You know, again, it's all about trust. It's all about feeling respected and feeling like they can compete. Please have those conversations. Okay. So this is general. Now, I may be flying through this thing and all over the map, but this is just other comments that I didn't know where else to put. So here they are. Big thing. And this goes again to competition. Please don't call the people on that you bring to the table lighting designers. You know, I know they're application specialists. I know they're engineers. They're really good at what they do, but they are still in a manufacturing situation that hopefully is partnering with us and not competing with us. When we are part of a call and, you know, either a rep is saying that they do lighting design or marketing themselves as lighting design, or coming on a call that we've invited them to, and billing themselves as lighting design, that is problematic and likely is going to be the end of our relationship until it's rectified. Another, and there's a lot here, but a lot of, well, Steven, you are just prolific. 5 minutes. Oh my, and an oops. Okay. Thank you, Steven. Love you. Okay. Chinese knockoffs. Interior designers, when we work on hospitality, multifamily, you know, insert here, a lot of times we try to specify your product. We do specify your product, and then it gets sent overseas and offshore, and boom, you know, all the architects and lighting and interiors folks have their people that they can shop stuff to. I don't know how you fix that, but just I got to throw it out there. You know, at the end of the day, we can't have the rug pulled out from under us. That's what it comes down to. Packaging, everybody had something to say about packaging. I understand it. We all understand it. We get that, you know, from market to market to market, sometimes it's a necessity. It doesn't always help you guys either, because, you know, everybody works to get specific fixtures and products specified, and then, you know, VE happens, and all of a sudden even your rep is forced to go into their stable of products and find something that's cheaper, and nobody's happy. I'm not happy, you're not happy. You know, they're awkwardly sort of happy because they still get a sale, but it's still not great. You know, it would be great if pricing was transparent and we knew what the pricing was absolutely going to be, and our clients also knew what their budgets were, which, is not an easy game, but if all of that happened and we could promise at least within a couple percentage points some transparency of pricing, and I'm going to use the quote here, we would work our asses off. I mean, we already work our asses off to keep you guys on our projects. When we specify you, it's because we believe in what you bring to our projects and for our clients. So help us help you, because it helps all of us. It's really good for our ecosystem. If we can increase that layer of trust between us and the clients, then they don't have to go to these distributors slash contractors slash, hey, we're lighting designers sort of people, which really don't help us. It really makes our job hard. So I wanted to leave on a really good note with happy people dancing. Things that make us happy that are in general, we want to see your products. We can't always get to the big international trade shows, although everybody should go to Light Fair. Really important, especially this year. Go to Light Fair, support the IALD, support but regional trade shows are helpful to us too. It lets us send more of our people. Really well designed websites. I was on a website yesterday. I was like, holy crap, it's still the 1970s. Come on, this is 2021. It is time. Upgrade your websites, make them beautiful and streamlined. Let us find things quickly within 3 clicks, and we are your best friends for life. Thank you for listening.
I can hear the thunderous applause, Andrea. It is coming from every corner of the world.
I'm waiting for like arrows to come through my porch. Well,
Thank you. Thank you. You made me think of something that I always talk to the young designers who come to Available Light, and I think it's good advice to all of us, and that is especially true about when you're creating cut sheets. When you're done creating your cut sheet, you want to share it with 5 people who have no idea what this thing is, and see if they understand the salient points that you are trying to get across. Try to put yourself in the shoes of the receiving party with all of the data that you put out. So for lighting designers, it's our paperwork and our drawings. And for manufacturers, it is cut sheets and specifications. Help us help you, I think, is a great way to say that. So we have a lot of comments and questions, and I'm kind of back and forth between the Q&A and the chat. I think at this point, I think there's going to be some discussion about pricing. And I think we are talking very generally about pricing here, just how we communicate pricing or how a fixture comes to market. We have to be careful with our antitrust, and I'm sure Kevin or Kelly or someone from the IALD will be popping in if we stray too far off course. So let me jump into a few questions that have come in, and I'll start with a curveball. I'll start with an easy one. I'll start with an easy one.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Dr. Ron Steen asks, what constitutes ridiculous number of pages? Over 5? Over 10? Like what would you consider ridiculous?
Me personally, I'm going to say if there's more than maybe 5 or 6 pages, just when you think about it, multiply it by even like 30 fixtures on a project. If everybody could keep it to 5 pages, at least for the submittals, or maybe just teach your reps to submit a pared down cut sheet. I know that's time. Everything translates to money. I get that. But there are a few manufacturers that we love. We love them to death, but 30 pages for a freaking cut sheet. And then, if I have one variation, it gets submitted as that variation, and then that variation, and then that variation. So Ron, I'm so happy you're on this call because you're wonderful. I'd say 5 and below would be fantastic. Steven, do you disagree? Because I don't have to be the only one answering.
No, I don't. And I've often thought that there almost should be two sets of cut sheets, one for the specifier that has all that information, and then one that is more compacted down so that it can fit nicely into a cut sheet package, and you don't end up sending 1,000 pages as a cut sheet package. Next question is, I am assuming that only delivered lumens provided without initial lumens is preferable to initial lumens only. It's kind of a question back on itself there, but you did say
I think you
something
should
about-
provide both, because that gives us information about efficiency. And again, if we're not jumping into the toolbox, or not to promote anybody's stuff, I'm sure there's other options, but it's really helpful to understand what the efficiency is. But if you don't give me, if I'm only going to get one thing, it's got to be delivered. But I would rather have both.
Excellent, excellent. We have a comment, when Andrea mentions controls to be digital, is she referencing Dolly?
I could be referencing DMX. I know I'm not referencing analog. So sure. Is there follow up to that? I mean,
No, I think I no, there's not. But I think, you know, there are a number of digital protocols out there, from streaming ACN to DMX and to Dolly to any number of digital platforms.
Here's what I would say, you know, and this was a very specific example that somebody sent. Maybe even, no, it wasn't Steven. I forget who sent it, but in the particular case of this pendant, digital was not an option.
Yeah,
oh, it was you. So digital, I thought it was, and then you didn't. So maybe why don't you elaborate? But digital wasn't an option for the downlight component. Is that correct?
Right. We had an up-down pendant cylinder with color changing uplight and just dimming white light on the bot as the downlight component. And the only way we could specify this fixture from the manufacturer was to use 0 to 10 volt dimming for the white light downlight and DMX for the uplight.
And truthfully, you know, a lot of products, if there's DMX or some digital protocol, chances are there's also architectural grade lighting system, and you know, that's a whole nother bag of worms, can of worms of the integration between, you know, and who leads and who follows on all of that. But once there's digital protocol, you know, I think giving options for digital protocol, whether it's Dolly or DMX even, for control even of architectural white light, it's a great idea.
Yep, I agree. So this could be a touchy subject, but I think the statement itself just stands on its own. So I'm just going to read this statement.
Oh dear.
Lack of pricing transparency makes it hard to defend a particular fixture during the VE process. I think that is very well stated.
Yes. You know, again, you know what? It stands on its own. Let's on to the next. I agree.
Yep.
Thank you.
So a question, what is an acceptable turnaround time for yes on a mod? So I don't know if that means,
I get
yes,
it.
From the manufacturer, yes,
yeah,
we can.
So I would say in the beginning stages of the project, an acceptable turnaround time, I'd say, is a couple weeks, because you have to go back to engineering. And not only do you have to go back to engineering, you have to figure out what it's going to cost. So it takes time to do that. I get that. I think 2 weeks, a little more, a little less, I think is fair. If something comes up and we're farther along in the project design and we're having to fix something, like we had a project just recently where we needed a modification to a back box on a sconce, an exterior grade sconce, because of how things were built and you know, blah, blah, blah. That we needed turnaround much faster because we were in construction. So I think it depends on the phase, and maybe that is the thing that's going to say whether you say yes or no. But if we're in design, I think it's fair to say, you know, we're going to have to do some research, and we want to be able to come back to you with a firm yes, with some, you know, fairly understood pricing and engineering.
That's funny. I was going to say a half an hour. So.
Well, and that's why they like me better than they like you.
Yes. So I'm with Andrea. I would like to show her the perfect cut sheet for manufacturers. Then we can take it to our factories to make changes. I think that part of that is, please seek comment and criticism from manufacturers out there who are creating new cut sheets, new brochures, new information. Before you just send it out there into the universe, why don't you get a little focus group together and have people review it?
One other comment, and I think any lighting designers that are listening are going to laugh when I say this. Take a look at the photographs, the application photographs that you include on your cut sheet. If it's bad lighting design, don't include it on your cut sheet. It doesn't make you look like you understand lighting. And you may be like, what are you talking about? It's a great picture of our product. Yeah, you might have a beautiful decorative product that's hanging over, say, a conference table in a conference room. And then the lighting on the walls is just a cacophony of scallops and mishmash and a mess. And I can promise you the last thing on the cut sheet image that you've shared that I'm looking at is the image of your beautiful decorative pendant, because all I'm seeing is bad lighting on the walls. So that's something that I would absolutely vet with a lighting designer or two. Really good application photos on cut sheets. Makes you look good.
Absolutely. So there's a question here that I'm going to try to just sort of parse through here a little bit. A lighting designer is concerned that sometimes not all of the technical information is presented. They use the word hidden, that just surprises in the field, things that don't always seem as they are. Lighting, that can be a very frustrating point for lighting designers, especially by the time the thing is installed and you turn it on. These things matter, calculations matter.
So the thing that I would suggest with regard to that, and especially in the digital age of LEDs, is if there's any question, it comes down to getting samples and turning them on, so that you understand how they're going to look. And manufacturers, what that means is, having your reps able to get us samples that we can, bring out in the field or do mock-ups with and really understand how a product works. Because, when we were dealing with incandescent light bulbs and even compact fluorescent, it was easy. I mean, you knew what it was going to look like. LEDs, you're not always so sure, so it's really, really helpful to have access to samples and to see it. Oh, the birds are really loud out here.
That's nice out in nature there.
Yeah, I like it.
So there's a kind of an ongoing discussion here about the lengths manufacturers will go to get their products on a job, and some of them seem a little bit below the line. And so lighting designers in general would prefer for that activity to not happen. And they're being pretty vocal about it in the question and answers. So I would say one of the, every culture is different, the way everybody brings their product to market and the way different countries work and cultures work. But in general, independent lighting designers would like to remain independent, and that's what the IALD is all about. So we want to collaborate with the manufacturers in ways that are above the line, above board.
I can tell you that when I've walked into a meeting, back in the days where I got to walk into meetings on a regular basis, and there was a manufacturer's rep in the room that I hadn't invited and didn't know was going to be there. It was awkward for me, it was awkward for them, and there was a pretty good chance that I was going to be on my guard if I found out that they had lied about leak. Holy heck. Apparently we have hawks. Which is good because we have mice too, so that works out well. I can remember, a situation where a manufacturer's rep actually told the client that, the lead time for what I had specified was not going to happen, and that we had to go to their products instead of the other manufacturer's reps products that I had specified. And as soon as I checked it, because I don't take anything at face value, and found out that the contractor and the manufacturer's rep had basically, ganged together to lie about my project, not only did I reject those products, I rejected the entire submittal. And that cost everybody time and money.
Right.
Including
us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, including me. But, it's just, Honesty is a really good policy. And I know that, oh my God, our industry is so layered. It's like a freaking onion with like good and bad layers. And it's like everybody's constantly peeling back these layers and hoping for Vidalia instead of rotten bad onion. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think there does need to be some sort of reckoning here in the coming years about our lighting industry and how we come to market. One comment is, as a lighting manufacturer, we cannot control pricing after we provide DN unless we sell direct. That is the only way we know we can control pricing. Would you want this, and how would you suggest we go about this? Many thanks for this candid talk.
Well, thank you first for that. I would say that I disagree with you slightly, because if you were transparent in your pricing on your website, then you could control pricing all the way down. We all could, because then it would be very obvious. And I'm saying this with a bad tone, and I don't mean it that way. And I'm not trying to sound condescending, because I know this is not so very simple. It's not. But the more transparent pricing is, the easier it is for us to communicate with our clients and to manage their expectations. And at BID, that's what we're doing. We're even all the way through the project, we're managing expectations. So if we know that fixture costs X, I mean, there's a reason why folks like Lightology and why lighting are so popular and problematic, because you can go to them and you know what things cost. And then we have to back it out and kind of figure out, I mean, I tell all my members of my team, you can go to Y Lighting or Lightology or whatever, but when it comes time to pull the cut sheet, I want you to go to the actual manufacturer's website and specify it, right? Because you don't want to have to worry about the contractor marking up on top of marking up, and the reps get cut out, and we need the reps because they take care of us. Our reps take really good care of us, and we are really appreciative of them. But it's an argument for transparency.
So this is an interesting comment from a designer, and something that I personally have not experienced. So what I do know is that our colleagues on the other side, our manufacturing colleagues, are very concerned about copyright and use and their distinctive designs and having them being ripped off by copycat manufacturers. But here a designer mentions that by using a manufacturer's cut sheet in a cut sheet package, but without receiving permission from the manufacturer to do that, that it became legal to knock off a fixture. And so that the comment is that we should be getting permission from manufacturers to use their imagery. And I'd be just curious if people could, maybe you have a comment about that, Andrea, but I'm curious if people would in the chat, if they have a response to that, or if they have other examples of that, I think we would like to hear it. I don't know if you had that happen to you, Andrea?
I've not. I mean, I get it. I mean, intellectual property is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But I haven't thought much about it, and I don't want to respond just off the cuff on this one, because I think it's a good conversation, and I think I'd like to hear more.
There is a great comment here. Lighting designers, I think, want to be respectful of both the rep system and the manufacturing system, and very often will communicate with the rep when they have questions. But there are just times when we need to talk to the engineer that figured out how to put this thing together. Whatever he or she designed, how does that work, and how can I make that work in my project? And there is a little bit of frustration on the specification community that there's a big wall up. The manufacturers don't give us information like who we can talk to, like who are the people behind that curtain. And so in the spirit of détente, it would be nice to pull that curtain open a little bit for professional designers. I think is that comment, and I salute that.
I would suggest that controls manufacturers have figured that out a little bit better than fixture manufacturers, and they typically have like sort of a hotline that, if you're on a job site, and even if it's in the middle of the night and you're aiming or focusing fixtures or dealing with parts and pieces, it would be good to have a hotline. I've just spent your money and required you to train more people, but it's with controls, it's an absolute requirement. If you don't have a hotline, chances are I'm not specing, because I need to know that if I'm up on a ladder at 3 o'clock in the morning, my fixture's got to come on. and I've got to be able to deal with
probably
it.
holding that ladder for you. So yes.
Yeah, and going like this. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just going to read this comment because it's terrific. This is a hill I may die on. But manufacturers need to think about their plastic usage in fixtures and packaging. There are plenty of environmental packages out there that do not include individual plastic sheets and non-compostable packaging. We need to think about end-of-life recycling and options for each part and piece that we are using in these buildings. So that's the hardware and the packaging itself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
Nothing
anything
to
you want
add.
to say about that? Okay,
Nope,
yep.
nothing to add. Absolutely.
So let me go over to, I've got questions on both sides of the aisle here. So let me, manufacturers that provide BIM models for their products would get a huge happy face, but someone else, and then ... someone else had a good comment about that. I just want to find it, just about how much, pretend I am a manufacturer. This is coming from a designer. Pretend I am a manufacturer. What is enough versus too much information to include in a BIM file of our fixtures? So we have someone thanking the manufacturers for the BIM files, and someone else saying, well, how much information should there be? Do you have a...
You know what? That is a fantastic question. And I'm going to answer it as someone who has never even had Revit on her Mac. But here's what I know, and there's lots of people on the call that can correct me, but there's a level of generality that we use for BIM files when we aren't planning to use the model and the Revit whatever that we're creating for renderings. And then there's a level of granularity to the BIM file that we require if we are using it for more lifelike or whatever, renderings. Maybe we're using Enscape, whatever. We are getting way to the boundaries of my knowledge, but I think perhaps, there's a couple of different amounts of complexity that we look for. And oftentimes we try, if we know if it's a quick project and we're not going to have to do renderings, we're really happy with simpler, more general, BIM files. That's what I know.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah, your point is well taken, and I think that again, I would love to see more dialogue between manufacturers and designers to kind of talks about these things, the standards, and maybe there are two kinds of BIM symbols available, one for putting into Enscape or other kind of visualization programs where you need a lot of data in order for those things to perform properly. And then maybe there's a dumbed down version, which doesn't take up as much memory in the file and doesn't turn these files into gigabyte after gigabyte of size. But an open dialogue between designers and manufacturers is never a bad thing. Mm-hmm. This is an interesting comment I think that is worth mentioning here. It is frustrating when a manufacturer has a US arm and a European arm, and maybe an Asian arm, so that would be a third arm, but they are unwilling or unable to work with each other on a project. There seems to be a lot of friction with some companies. Have you run into that?
I don't have experience with that, so if you do, that would be awesome. If anybody else in this panel has experience with that, I'd welcome them to comment as well.
And the other issue is just, you find something on the website, you find something on a US website, and then you go to specify it and you find out, oh, well, that's only available in the European catalog. And yeah, that can get very confusing. And
well, I would say Light and Build and Euroluce breaks my heart on a regular basis, because I see things that I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. And well, you're going to have to wait a couple of years. Yeah. It's gotten a little bit quicker now. I think it's more like 6 to 8 months, but yeah.
Well, it's nice to see the community, it's nice to see people getting in, traveling around so that Europeans can hear Americans and their input, and then we can hear their input. We learn a lot from each other. So may that continue. A lot of people are just saying, thank you very much. Very useful and insightful tips. Really great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. You echoed so many, if not all, of my pet peeves as a lighting designer. That's a nice thing.
Thank you.
Especially the competition and free design. Nothing is free. Thank you for that. One of the manufacturers says we've made small changes to our spec sheets to reduce the pages and keep small candela curves and numbers. So thank you for that. Especially some balance in improve our relationship. Okay, some talking about just great collaboration between LARC and lighting designers. Let's keep it going. Manufacturer says we would never go around a designer and direct to their client, but we see a tendency that some designers are not educated well enough. Then it comes to the more advanced solutions like media facades, and therefore trying to do kind of an English thing here, and therefore selects less good products. Manufacturers concerned that lighting designers are not necessarily using their products properly. This creates tension that we as a supplier insist on being involved in the conversation. We're not always allowed to because the designer obviously needs to stay independent. Would you have a suggestion on how to solve this apart from us being manufacturers to offer more training?
I think offering more training and having sort of a design, I don't want to use that word, like think Kinex or Legos. It would be great to know how to put things together, but I agree with you, you know, with regard specifically to like media boards, that's an animal that, you know, if you haven't done it before, you don't even necessarily know the questions to ask, you know, with regard to pitch and whatever. Steven can speak to this just as well as I can, or better, 1,000 times better probably. But there are, I mean, think about it. I can take this back even a little, much more simply. With LED came controls protocols that took some people out. I mean, you know, understanding the different control protocols and what they mean and what they are and how to specify them and when to specify them has been an exercise in frustration and continues to be, I think, for a lot of designers, because it is far more complicated than just simple face dimming. So I get it. I think the more communication and collaboration you can find a way to have with lighting designers, the better served you're going to be.
Well, we all need to grow up together. You know, the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about what lighting was like when you and I started in this business, and how
candles.
And it has become basically semiconductor lighting and all of it that goes with us. Manufacturers do need to be patient with us, but I think they have every right to be frustrated.
Yeah.
And we misrepresent what their capabilities are or don't quite understand the intricacies or subtleties of what they do. And so continuing to talk, continuing to train, we welcome it and we relish it. So bring it on, manufacturers.
But I would say to lighting designers, you know, it's on us to educate ourselves with regard to what we're asking for and what we're telling our clients we can do. You know, I'm as guilty of that as anybody, you know, thinking that, oh yeah, we can do this easy, you know, and it's not easy. Ron Steen, I think, can probably attest to that.
I even know the project you're talking about.
Yes, I know you do.
So a little bit more discussion about pricing. I really do believe we need some sort of a task force to kind of work through how we might make pricing a project a little bit more realistic in the 2020s. Excellent presentation. Some rep agents are very protective of their relationship with lighting designers and discourage direct communication. I guess they mean with the factory. I would just say to those reps, you need to get over that. And we're all a team. You know, it's a single stream. The reps, the manufacturers, and the lighting designers should be working together in a circle. Now, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
No, I agree. You know, I don't want to have to worry about, am I stepping on anybody's toes when I'm just trying to specify a product that you guys are all involved with. So if I need to go to the manufacturer, I don't want to feel guilty for going to the manufacturer.
I am going to end on a comment from Bob Kaimig. He says, this was a perfectly organized informational piece delivered with candor and without axe grinding. Well done, Andrea.
Thank you, Bob. Always a gentleman. Thank you.
And I'm like I am thinking, and we should do. We also need a what pisses me off from the manufacturer side.
Mhm.
We could always use some feedback about what we could be doing better for our manufacturers to make sure that in the end, the vision of the project is realized.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to tip my virtual hat to Andrea and thank you very much for speaking to us and sharing not only your thoughts, but the thoughts of the community. And I would like to turn the gavel and microphone back to our leaders, Nancy Stathis and Alexis. So if you guys want to come back on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea, Steven, a terrific job. Wonderful to begin to start doing a deep dive so that we can share. And I really believe you expressed it with the collaborative and critique in a manner that the audience received it well. So thank you for that. As a manufacturer, thank you for that. We can run off, think we're doing everything great, and you always have to step back and who is your audience. So thank you for being a great presenter and mouthpiece of the audience of the designers. Thank you.
So thank you again, Andrea. Next slide, please. We want to make an announcement that for everyone to mark their calendars, the next virtual meeting will feature Leela Shanker, and she'll be giving a talk on embodied carbon. That'll be on September 23rd. Please save the date. And then we are also hoping to have an in-person meeting during Light Fair in October. Please keep an eye out for details. They should be forthcoming.
And thank you. And remember, the steering committee is here to service the LARC, the IALD. Come to us early, come to us often with your thoughts, your ideas, and we will absolutely address them. Thank you again. We hope you all have a wonderful, healthy, happy summer. And we're looking forward to seeing you hopefully at Light Fair. Take care.
Thanks for attending.